Hello and welcome to SoulWhat. I am Michelle Welch, your co-host, the oh so serious one who cares way too much.
I don't give a damn what you think. Your host, Roger Welch. So what's up today, Michelle?
Well, first of all, do you want to introduce who stopped by to be on the show with us?
You mean Laura? Laura Pace.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thanks
Laura's
for having
kind of
me
a
again.
regular on the show now,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
So
Thanks
we're
for having
going
me
to
again.
talk tonight about Ouija boards and why all the fear with Ouija boards. And the reason we did it was because somebody posted on
Intuitive
the
Insights.
Intuitive Insights group. They posted a legitimate question. What should I do with this board? Something's attached to it. And so we're not making fun of anything anybody feels or believes about Ouija boards. We're just going to give you a little history, talk about them some, and show you some boards that Laura brought with
I
us.
brought
And
some. I have a collection, little array
so
of
she's
Ouija boards.
clearly very scared of them, right? And we'll kind of give our thoughts on it, our opinions, and you guys can chime in. And we also asked I did earlier today, for some stories that you guys had from using Ouija boards. So we might read a couple of those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you want to lead us off with the article you found?
Yeah, so I found a really great article by Linda Rodriguez McRoby.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, and she writes for Smithsonian, and this was published in October of 2013. So I'm not going to read you the article. We'll post it in the show notes when we're done. But the moral of the story of the article is that Ouija boards actually were created to make money. They weren't created as a tool of divination. They weren't created as something scary or a portal of hell. They were actually created out of the 19th century fascination with spiritualism, or mid to late 19th century fascination with spiritualism. The guy who actually started it, his name was, why is it escaping me?
It was like
Kennard.
Kennard or something.
Yeah, Kennard, Charles Kennard of Baltimore, Maryland. He had heard of people in Ohio using talking boards, where they had boards with letters on it and they were using it to try and communicate with spirits. And he saw, during the late 19th century, the average lifespan was 50. There was the American Civil War, there was disease. Even Mary Todd Lincoln had a fascination with spiritualism and seances. So he saw an opportunity to really capitalize, of course, it's America, off of that fascination and also fear of spiritualism. So he started the Ouija board, and he went in with 3 other partners. They were all businessmen. None of them were mediums or spiritualists or anything like that. And they came up with the Ouija board. And actually, one of the guys' sister-in-laws was a medium, and she came up with the name Ouija. It doesn't mean yes in French. It actually means good luck, or that's what she says the name meant. She was channeling, and that's where she came up with the name. But it is fascinating. Really, the stigma that's attached to Ouija boards today really didn't come about until the 1970s with the publishing of the book The Exorcist, which is a novel and a movie that I love, and the movie that came out, I think it was in 1971.
And then Pat Robertson on the 700 Club, which my parents and grandmother and everybody, we all watched regularly, decided it was a tool of the devil.
A tool of the devil, tool of demons, that's right. Yeah. So it really came from, and what's funny, and Michelle and I were talking about this, is in the 19th century, it was actually considered a wholesome activity where people would have seances on Saturday night and communicate with their loved ones who had passed away and then go to church the next day. So there wasn't...
Sounds fun to me.
Yeah,
well,
I know, me too.
And part of the reason you were saying is because so many people had lost their loved ones.
Right.
And so they wanted a way... I mean, the average age you said was like 50.
Mm-hmm.
And so people wanted to communicate with their loved ones. So they were part of the Spiritualist Church. It still is a church. If you go to like the Arthur Findlay School of Mediumship in England, that's the reason I haven't gone to that Arthur Findlay School. No offense to you guys who've gone, because I know some of you have. But I kind of wanted to go, but it's connected with that spiritualist church. So they have rules of how to do it. And, you know, I don't want those rules because I already do it, right?
Right.
So, but it started with more of a spiritual thing. And then it
Yeah.
turned into like, oh, it's a spooky thing.
Yeah. In the 70s, Hollywood got a hold of it after The Exorcist and the book when it came out in the movie and just kind of ran with it from there. And you've seen everything from Paranormal Activity 1 and 2, where they use the Ouija board to summon the devil, where they actually have a ghost at first and then they use it to summon the devil. And then it was on Breaking Bad. It's been in so many different films in Ouija. Oh, what is the name of that movie that was on Netflix that was so scary?
The one that you told me was supposed to be the
Samantha-
scariest movie.
No,
Was it Samantha?
No.
no.
It's
Well, that might be a different one. But this one
Spanish
was
film.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Veronica. Oh my God,
Veronica.
it's so scary.
That's it,
Yeah.
Veronica.
And that one did start with
Yep.
they were playing with the Ouija
Yep,
board.
were playing
exactly
with
what
the
they
Ouija
did.
board.
And supposedly that is based on the investigator's notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I've known some
It wasn't that
investigators,
scary.
too. Detectives in their
It wasn't that scary.
Right.
Well,
And you know, there's an interesting story. When they applied for the patent for the Ouija board, they wanted to keep it mysterious, right? They wanted to not really explain how it worked, but they knew they had to prove that it actually worked. So Bond, who was one of the guys, he was a patent attorney. He went to Washington and took his sister-in-law, Helen, who was the medium who came up with the name Ouija. And they used the Ouija board to spell out the name of the patent officer who was doing the work to approve the patent. And it spelled it out. And so he was freaked out and was like, wow, okay, you get your patent.
he
There you
Googled
go.
that ahead of time. Oh, no, I guess he
Googled it.
couldn't, huh?
I think it was 1891.
Yeah.
A little before Google.
The Google.
But a little before the Google. But yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a little like a high level history. Again, we'll post this article so you guys can read it. It's a really great article, and I want to give the author recognition for that. And there's also a gentleman who does research on the Ouija board. His name is Robert Murch. So if you want to look him up too, there's a lot of sightings in the article from him.
It's interesting because a lot of people will always talk about, well, you're opening up a portal. And so, right? That's the big
Right.
thing that comes up. Well, you're opening a portal to something. So my opinion on that is everything's a portal. I could decide that, you know, this sheet of paper is a portal if I want it to be. We are portals. So everybody talks about portals. Oh, you go to this one place and these vortexes are there and it's a portal. And, you know, if you see spirits a lot, I'm sorry, but you kind of think that's BS because why do you need a portal? They're everywhere anyway. So I will never buy into that.
Right.
I think everything's a portal.
like you hear-
Anything can be a portal.
right. Like you
If
hear people saying mirrors are portals.
If
and
you want
just
to,
all
if you
kinds of
want to
stuff.
call something up and you want to get in touch with something, you don't need anything.
No.
So
Right.
I will, from my viewpoint, and you know this because when we met, I mean, from my viewpoint, it's just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know why everybody's like, oh, it's a portal, and you better close. If you use a pendulum, you better close the portal. And I'll get people saying I'm being irresponsible. I will challenge you and say, then you don't see spirits all the time like I do because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'll just challenge right back. I'm not being irresponsible. They're there, so we don't have to open portals. They're there anyway.
Right.
I've played with them since I was a kid. I'm talking
too.
like little bitty kid too. My dad
Yeah.
has one of the original, was it
Parker Brothers,
Parker
yeah.
Brothers, the original Parker Brothers, which I tried to get him to give it to me a couple of years ago. And he's like, no, you don't know what to do with it. I'm like, okay. If that's what you
I remember
think.
that was really funny. He doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But
Yeah,
when I
really
was a
funny.
kid, I would do it, and yeah, it would move all over the place.
See, I play. We played with them too, and I just thought they were a bunch of.
Yeah.
It didn't. I remember, like I'm like, really? Why do you need this little planchette thing?
Yeah.
I mean, why do you need that?
Well, I was always the one that wanted to whip it out at the slumber parties, but nobody wanted to play with me. So
I'll play, but I don't. I think it's. I mean, it's just like then move it with your mind. Don't put your hands on it.
right. Oh, and that brings up another topic. Should we talk about that?
Yeah.
The ideometer effect.
Yeah.
So the ideometer effect is when your subconscious, it can be much like pendulums too, right? Or dowsing rods. But there's different levels of consciousness. Your subconscious, your conscious. What do you say? Zombie mind. But some psychiatrists and psychologists think these really work because scientifically, it is a reflex, or it's tapping into your subconscious. So it's actually your subconscious moving the planchette or the pendulum, not your conscious mind, because people will say, I didn't use it. So they think it's a really fascinating tool.
That I might
to
agree
use.
with. That I would agree with, that it helps you get out of the way of yourself. For people who can't get out of the way, their own way, and just clear channel, then it'll help you get in touch with your subconscious. I mean, your higher self, right?
Sure.
I mean, I can see
absolutely.
that. So we played with it. We played with one of yours. The Stranger Things one.
Yeah. So we have a couple. We have this one that's hand carved, I guess you'd call it. What
It's
would
really
you call
pretty.
it, Roger?
Yeah, it's nice. real
It's wood. It's wooden, I should say. It's got the little wooden planchette. I keep this one in my office for emergencies. And then here's the classic one that everybody recognizes.
Yep.
The classic Ouija. And then when I first met Michelle, I had brought, they didn't have any Ouija boards. The only Ouija board Target had at the time was this one.
The Stranger Things.
So I have this one now in my
With
collection.
the little plastic planchette.
Yeah, it's so cute.
So what happened with that? The minute we stopped touching it, the lights went out.
Yeah.
And all kinds of mediumship stuff came through, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we didn't need that Ouija board.
We didn't need the Ouija board.
No way. Mm-mm. What do you think,
free
Roger? So you played with them
When I was a kid, we always played with them and everything. Remember that show though we did, the paranormal show, and the ghost hunters from TV, the big buff. I'm a badass ghost hunter, and that was when we were talking about. We had the pendulums we used to take to all the shows, and he was like, "Oh, remember this?"
Scared.
He was scared. Well, he's like, I don't mess with no Ouija boards because those open up portals, and I don't mess with those. I'm like, well, let me show you this. This kind of works kind of similar to a Ouija board because you can say, show me a yes, show me a no, and it's moving around. And I'm like, here, try it. So I make him hold it, and he's like, and I said, just ask it to show you a yes, and it starts moving. And this guy's like, like this, and he has to hold it out like this.
Yeah. With his fingers.
Yeah.
With his fingers out. And he goes, show me a yes.
Flexing his muscles.
Show me a no. And then, but when I said, it's a pendulum, it's kind of like a Ouija board, he threw it at me and ran to the other end of the building.
Oh my gosh.
Big baby.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
What is your cup?
My cup, psychic readings. What does your future hold? And yeah,
It must be iced tea, right, Roger?
maybe. I'm just
Roger
saying,
and his iced tea. If you didn't have iced tea,
it's all about
grumpy.
spirits in here.
Oh.
Hey, that's a hint.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm glad you brought up the pendulums because I brought some. I think it's the same concept, especially if you use them like with the pendulum boards. You can spell things out. You can get yes, nos. So
We
really,
created a whole book based off
So
of it.
it could be, we do. We have a
Yeah.
whole book, the pendulum book. So it's really what's the difference. The only thing I could say is I do think some things can have where we get a collective consciousness, a thought about something. So if we decide as a collective that something is scary or something is dangerous, then there is some bit I could argue that there would be a collective consciousness thought to that could be an anger form or a fear form or something like that. And I think that's what's happened with the Ouija board. I say Ouija. What's happened with the Ouija board is that there's been since The Exorcist, the book, right?
Yeah.
There's just been this collective consciousness, this put to it, and if you do that, enough people put that thought to something, then it will become that.
Right.
I believe. So that would be the only reason I think it could have what quote unquote evil, because it's really easy to say that all energy is neutral and all energy is the same, but when you're feeling something really scary, it doesn't feel the same. right?
Right.
It doesn't feel the same.
Right.
It is what we assign to it, I believe, though. So I think there is some collective consciousness. I actually had somebody who was teaching a class probably about 7 years ago, and we were clear channeling, we were using pendulums, we were using cards, and they were, ghost buster detector thingies, all the whatever those things are called, but when it came to Ouija boards, she was like, you can't use that. And I raised my hand, and I was like, why? What's the difference? You say you see a spirit over in the corner, but yet you can't use a Ouija board. I just find that, I'm not trying to be mean, I just find it illogical.
Isn't it just a tool that we use to work with, to communicate with that spirit?
Yeah. And I guess because people think that it's been used for so long for satanic purposes or whatever, but Laura just told us it was not the origin of the board. It was actually for spiritual use, and people didn't think there was anything wrong with trying to get in contact. Didn't you say somebody had lost their son?
Mary Todd Lincoln.
Yeah, and so she'd lost her son. She wanted to get in touch with her son. People had lost their loved ones, and then the next morning they'd go to church, and what was wrong with, if you really believe they're still living on in another plane or realm, what's so wrong with it?
Right.
Yeah. But, there is, if you go by the Protestant or Christian Bible, there is scripture that flat out says divination tools and mediums are, an abomination. I looked them up last night, didn't I?
You did.
I did.
And you sent some to me.
Yeah, there's 33 of
It's
them.
like, wow.
33
Just
of
so you
them?
know. 33 mentioned in the Bible. References. Well, there
References. I know.
Yeah.
It also says don't eat shrimp.
Well, I know it does.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, y'all want to read some of the
must have
stories?
missed
Want me
that
to
day.
read some of the stories that people sent?
Yes.
Okay. So Deanna Gore wrote, one night I did everything you're not supposed to do with it because of boredom and curiosity, but it was very disappointing because nothing happened. Just sat around waiting for nothing. All right. And then Leah, I won't read last names. Leah said, does the preacher preaching a sermon on getting rid of them count? And I was like, yeah, sure. Give me that story, but she didn't. Rex said, practical jokes with Ouija board at high school party back in the 80s. Joan, I truly do not recall hers is long. I truly not recall many experiences with Ouija board. I know that I have seen them. I've also watched movies or television shows Ouija boards were present. I guess my experiences were unremarkable, or my inexperience guided me to respect what I didn't know, and I turned attention elsewhere. As with any tool, follow the instructions. But these instructions are sort of stupid. Like, never do it alone. Don't do it in a graveyard.
Those are movie instructions.
What are the instructions then?
The instructions are pretty basic. Remember, they didn't want to tell you a lot about how it worked because they wanted to keep it mysterious.
Right.
Read more stories and I'll look at them.
So she said, follow the instruction. It is interesting that we can use our energies and pendulums will move in response. So she's kind of talking about what we did. There seems to be something more dramatic and perhaps more fearful, the Ouija board, and that kind of movement. Perhaps Hollywood is behind some of that, LOL. Kara, one night played with my friends and ex-husband after watching the movie The Number 23. Do y'all remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
With Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
My ex wasn't touching the board, and we asked it to tell us what he was thinking, and it went to one number, then another, and then it started to spell out Ned, the name of the dog in the movie, and my ex threw his arms up and said, forget this, and went outside saying that he was thinking one number, then changed it to throw the board off, then started thinking of the dog's name, and that's when it was too much for him to handle anymore, LOL. Linda Anthony Hill, she's an author of fiction paranormal books.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote, we set one up at HHM one night, left it, and went about our investigation. We checked back in an hour, and the planchette, these little things are planchettes. Laura, you can show. The planchette had moved to number 5 on its own. We reset it and repeated. When we came back, it had moved again to number 5. Never determined the significance of number 5. So a lot of people have had, experiences where they work.
Yeah.
Or do something. Carlene, I was a teenager and was babysitting. We played with one of the children's boards. It told us who would win the football game, which was the Cowboys. And then we asked, now we're talking. Can I use it to gamble? And then we asked my youngest brother's girlfriend's name. It told us Georgetta. When later I asked my brother who was Georgetta, his eyes got wide and jumped back. No one knew he was seeing this girl from a totally different neighborhood.
Oh.
Carlene had another one. Experience was a board I bought. My mom married a man named Max, who was an ex-Marine. Max was drunk most of the time. My aunt and I convinced Max to sit down with us and the board. The Ouija board refused to deal with Max. It kept running off the board with rabbit speed. It would not do anything else with Max's fingers on the planchette. Oh, let's read Jim Barker's. You want to?
Oh, this should be interesting.
Okay, so 27 years ago, Jim's been on our show before. He is the palmistry
Yes.
guy. He's amazing and funny and nice, right?
He is.
Yeah. So 27 years ago, I was 19 years old in my first apartment that I shared with my fiance and her best friend. It was a time of great experimentation in everything, including the occult. My fiance had a spirit board I discovered that she would use from time to time. Though I was frightened of it, I was also fascinated. So one evening we tried it. We lit a candle and asked for protection and then dove in. My phone is broken on the screen, so it's kind of hard to read. The planchette moved and answered our questions by slowly spelling out words or traveling to yes and no. It was cool, but I wondered if someone else was pushing it, meaning someone human like my fiance or our roommate. After a few minutes, my fiance was frustrated and asked if she could do it herself. In so doing, she was able to communicate with the spirit very quickly as we wrote down the answers. That was more telling than anything, since it seemed to be her authentic communication with the spirit. She didn't voice her questions. She just asked silently and had some sort of conversation. In the years since, I have occasionally tried using a spirit board. However, it has never really worked for me like it did with my fiance back then. And if we have time, there's a couple more stories. And people are saying, I have loads of stories. One lady said she had loads of stories. Do you want me to write them here? And I said, yes. And then she never wrote them. So, but Leslie says, I've got my mom's original board. She and I started with it about the time I could recognize letters. And I have stories from her and some from my own. Do you want me to message them to you? She didn't. But in the gist of it was, it worked when she worked with her mom. When her mom passed, that board stopped working for her. And she got another board. I believe is the way the story went. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
lots of stories. I just remember that we'd get the board out and we'd go to the girl, her name was Melinda Tate or something. We'd go to her house and then it ended up in a makeout session with everybody. So that's what you did with the Ouija boards.
So
all the people would be over there and then,
hang on a second.
Yeah.
Over in the corner over there, do you still have your Ouija board? You do? Yes.
Is it ending a makeout session with everybody?
It better not be. How old were you when I got your Ouija board for you?
Like, it was like a few years ago. It's probably like 11.
11?
Yeah.
Okay. Better not be no damn makeout sessions over there.
I've only ever played it with Liam.
I mean, y'all be honest. Am I the only one that it started off as
yes.
a seance? We're going to all get in touch with the spirits and it ended
I
out
think
in
it's
a
just
total
you.
makeout session with
Must
everybody?
be.
No.
It's just me.
It's just
I'm the
Michelle.
only hoe on the show, apparently.
You're the
Okay.
only hoe. No, you're not.
All right.
I've never touched one.
You have
Really?
it?
Throw it at her.
Erica's
out.
never touched one. Well, come on. I mean, you go over, you're
The
playing
hell
with
is
the
your
Ouija
problem
board.
over
What are
there?
you
I
going to
think
do?
I've seen one at the store. I don't even.
You can go to Target.
No, there's people who are freaked out if we have them in the store.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, freaked out if we have them in the store. Like they, somebody who comes to our Thursday night class, he is like, what are you having those in the store? And I'm like, oh. And I'm not making fun of them.
No.
Everybody has their thing, but it's like, probably now that I've said all this, I'm going to go home and like, there's going to be like planchettes like moving all over, flying in the house.
Not
and
today, it'd be
stuff.
boxes moving.
Yeah, yeah, just boxes.
Well, and I think too, what's popular now is more, and I've always loved it, the iconography of Ouija. The font, the pictures, the letters. We have these candles here in the store, and then these cute little
These are
crystal
really cool.
planchettes.
They're made from like rose quartz. We have clear quartz. We have an agate one. Yeah.
Aventurine.
Oh yeah,
The green
Green
aventurine.
aventurine.
And if you don't want it to be a planchette, you can make it a heart.
a heart. That's right.
See, I always thought it only, let's see, it's the Empress card. the Empress card, her
Yeah.
chair looks like a planchette.
Yep.
So
Her
I
throne
wanted I want
looks
to
like
throw
a
this out at
planchette.
you guys. So Carla had asked, Carla's a deep thinker, and I love that about her. And she said, I kind of hope that y'all will cover like other things, like not just Ouija boards, but like I think it's like opening portals. What you think about that? Do you have to, say a prayer before you start? Should you close it? Should you open and close it? Remember we took a class one time and the lady was like, "Oh my God!" It was like an hour's worth of you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to. I was like, "Oh," and don't let kids ever use it because the spirits will latch on to kids. Look, spirits are with kids before. We're the ones who taught the kids out of knowing and telling them that their imaginary friends aren't real and all that kind of stuff. It's us who does that to them, not the other way around. So do I believe in protection? Yes, for kids and adults. And so I'm not making fun of that, but I'm saying, to me, I'm just not about all the fear of it, of everything. What do
Okay.
you think?
I'm not either.
I mean, what do you think, Laura?
I've never closed a portal, I would say. You're kind of, you're done.
You're kind of just there. You're done. You're finished.
Yeah.
You just move on.
I mean, like you said, they're going to be around no matter what. So if I open or close a channel of communication,
Yeah.
they're going to be there anyway.
And you set your intention to be what you, right? I mean,
Sure.
yeah. So I can't find where Carla wrote that. She had a really good long question. It was on either SoulWhat or Soultopia, or it must have been SoulWhat. That's where it was.
Yeah.
And it was like, could y'all get into more here? I think I found it.
But I think everybody's different. Even like with spells and, people who practice the craft and all of that, it's like everybody, different kinds of witches have their different kinds of rituals. Some people have rituals, some people don't. It's really up to the individual.
Yeah, I think that's important to say because I don't want to be like so flippant to think that I don't ever do rituals. I mean, I set intentions though. That's me. I set intentions. But I also, I don't like to cook and do all that stuff because it takes a long time. So I just when I want my spaghetti, I want my spaghetti or whatever.
Right.
So I really just don't spend forever doing this stuff because
Why'd you
it
have to
comes
say
so
spaghetti? Now I'm hungry.
because
Me
it
too, right?
Because it really comes so easily. I don't know why we have to do.
So
But,
Carla
yeah.
Nichols said, what I meant, are there certain energies that are attracted more to certain tools?
Oh.
Okay, what do y'all think?
I think no.
I think no.
I think
I
no.
think it's the person working with them
Yeah.
and what their intention is.
Kara asked, I would love to hear about those other things, more so what to do if a spirit is misbehaving.
So what does she mean? Other things, like. I mean, if a spirit is okay, so so the other things, I guess, if a spirit is misbehaving.
Well, let's say they're not giving you proper answers or something like that. Well, you can tell them to give you clear, direct
I
answers.
think she means more than that.
Think she
I
means
think
more
maybe
than that?
she's being like they're being mischievous or they're
Well, tell them to
messing with
stop.
you. I believe we have the power to tell them to stop. And I think that Hollywood has really blown out of proportion the number of times that, I mean, a possession is really when you just have something take over you that is not of yourself. So you could be possessed by a lot of things. And so I think Hollywood's just put a lot of fear in us about, so I think she gave a specific example of that, but
She just commented, like, what I think is attached to my brother.
then I think you can have a clearing. I mean, I think he can come in for healings or to different places. I think that you can use
Clear him.
strong clearings. And do I think in rare instances, maybe there's things that are more serious than that? Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not going to say that there aren't malevolent
That's right.
beings.
Yeah.
There's low vibrations, there are higher vibrations. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to discount that completely but I think that's when you get healings. and energy work.
Carla said if you channel, why would you use a tool like an Ouija board?
I would say, Carla, because it's sometimes, for me, I don't think you need to. Not for mediumship at all. It'd be like if somebody wants to hold an item because it might trigger them, getting more information more quickly. Just like if you used a pendulum, you might get information more quickly, or tarot cards. It's no different. So,
It's just a tool for connection.
It's just a tool to help people connect, and I think that some people enjoy those tools. They enjoy using those tools, or they think the cards are pretty, or they want to use the boards. It's just maybe what they become familiar with using. But I don't think that's why I think the word clear channel is a little bit overused. Like people go, "I'm a clear channel." Well, I think everybody can be a clear channel and have direct communication with spirit. I believe that it was people like churches perhaps that wanted to tell us we didn't have direct communication with those things beyond, and they wanted us to go through something else. An interesting point about
That's right.
who got upset about the
Yes.
Ouija board. Yeah, tell that.
One of the in the late 19th century, the people who were most upset with Ouija boards were the spiritual mediums, because it kind of cut out the middleman. So people were having their own seances and not going to spiritual mediums anymore.
So it wasn't just like churches who got upset that you were bypassing, you have to go through a priest or whatever to talk to whomever, or what, even with tarot cards, you can't read your own future. You should go through the church. It was also us
Right.
back in the day, because they were like, oh, they don't need to hire a medium anymore. They can just use their own board. They can go straight to source, straight to spirit, or whatever themselves. Right? So it's
Okay.
money. It
No,
came down
yeah.
to money.
So it's all about money.
It all.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, are there any safety tips you'd recommend for divination?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the person. So I do believe that I will say my biggest safety tip is it's your intention. If your intention is you have a lot of anger and you are rageful, then I wouldn't participate in divination at that point in time. I'd be very careful. Do I think that you can call in protection of the guides and angels you work with if that makes you feel better about it? Yeah. But really, if your intention is not to do harm, or I don't even know if I want to say that. What do you think, Roger? To me, it comes down to intention. So the safety tips to me are what you're probably, I don't know who's asking, but what you may want to be hearing is, should you say a prayer before? Should you say and set an intention? So should you make it for the highest and best good? Should you close the portal, open the portal, then close the portal? Should you use sage? Should you make sure you're not doing it in a certain area? I don't ascribe to all those rules. I just don't. And there will be people who say I'm being irresponsible with that. I'm not, because if your intention is
Well, when your
pretty
intentions,
good,
yeah,
then
your intentions kind of, when you're saying that prayer, to open or prayer to close, you're setting an intention there anyway. That's all that really is. So if your intention's already in the most purest form, you're already there.
But I'm also one of those people who was raised, I mean, I still believe in many things in my Christian faith, and I don't ever believe in like standing on the street corner and saying a big prayer and making a big issue out of, oh, I'm going to be so holy, I'm going to make a big prayer. And I think a lot of people do that before they open a portal, or they do a healing. They're saying these big, long prayers and invoking all these things. If that's your gig and that's which is important to you, fine, but make sure your intention is actually for what you are saying it's for, as opposed to just putting on like this big show of I'm calling in, and I'm a Palladian from the Palladian Council, and I call in the Palladian Council, and I call in the this and the that. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, come on, just get on with it. Just seriously. I mean, but that's just me, because I'm not as ritual oriented as other people. So I don't want to, I'll probably get off and be worried that I'm have slammed people's rituals. I don't mean to. So if you want to have rituals and that makes you feel more, if it makes you feel safer, then do them.
Sure.
But, I have mirrors in my office. And I've had people say to me, oh, those are portals. I'm sorry. I don't agree with you. I just don't. I like
No.
mirrors. It makes the room look bigger.
Yeah.
I like
And
it.
I can check my lipstick. I mean, seriously, it's
And
just
that blue
there's
hair.
just so much fear that people love to propagate. It's like it's the more fear I can put in there, the more exciting it's going to be. Like it became, let's make it spooky, and then people will want to buy it, right?
Wanna
And
buy
when
more.
it used to be spiritual, and they would just wanted to get in touch with their loved ones. Why does it? To me, it's the hype of selling more stuff is to make it spookier. And there's this. Do I believe there can be curses and believe there can be things like that? I do. But I also believe that a lot of it is just, a lot of it's hype. That's what I think.
Agreed.
Yeah, it is.
Agreed.
Do you really agree
I
with
really
that?
do.
Yeah.
I mean, because it all boils back to kind of the money part. Because if you think about it, like you said, if it's scary and enticing, people are want to draw to it. But it also was the money part of it that made it this scary and exciting, or told people not to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
mean,
oh, I'm sorry.
No,
hon.
go ahead.
Even in the 70s, I wanted to mention, let me pull it out here. They were talking about, remember in the 70s, they were really big. Like they went through a big boom after The Exorcist. It was, 1944, 1967, the Fold Company, before they were sold to Parker Brothers, sold 2 million boards. So this was after The Exorcist and all of that.
that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
So
And, do I think that tools, we sell tools. I mean, we sell tarot cards. We don't sell Ouija boards because people freak out and you can get them at Target. But, I mean, we sell
in the
pendulums. We sell,
in the toy department.
you can get. That's where I found these.
That's where I got yours, wasn't it? Toy department.
But I mean, and we sell candles, and I believe in certain sorts of intention setting that other people may call spells. So I think that it's not just, I'm not going to sell stuff just to make money and just because and not think it works. I think tools can help us. Back to the person who asked for guidelines to be safe or things to follow. I think it's whatever you feel. When somebody tells me you've got to say this prayer, first of all, if they're giving me their prayer, that's not going to be a prayer that I would necessarily say. All right?
Right.
I mean, so you've got to memorize this certain prayer. Why? It's kind of like Wes said when he was on the show talking about spells, and he said it's kind of a little weird, precarious situation when people are putting their grimoires out there, and because what they intended with that recipe may be something completely different than what you intend with that recipe or with that spell.
Yeah.
And so I think it has to be what you are comfortable with. If you want to call in angels for protection, then do that. But I just,
Well, like if you think about it, the tools, it's really is so you can focus. You can bring your focus tighter in, and that's why it all kind of works. It's because you're able to really focus in. And if you're, kind of a newbie, and those tools do help because you're able to kind of tighten that focus.
I agree with that. Do I think that, as Kara asked, that something could get an energy, a thought form potentially, it could just be a thought form of anger or jealousy or whatever, or maybe if there was a murder in a house or something, that could get attached to a certain place, and maybe not even, it could be a residual energy, maybe not even a ghost or something, or spirit, but just the residual energy. Do I think that could get attached to certain items? Yes, I do. I think it could get attached to,
Anything back
that
here.
or it could get attached to this hat. So it's
Not
not
that hat. That's my hat.
Not that hat. The only reason it might be, this is Roger's. The only reason it might be different for these, like I said, or even tarot cards. I think it's funny where people was like, well, the tarot cards are okay, but the Ouija boards aren't. I think it's the collective. The argument could be the collective consciousness, but I really think it's the person working with it. Mm-hmm. That's who's getting in touch with something. Mm-hmm. It's not the board itself. It's just a tool to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we doing ratings?
We got 5 minutes. Do we have a giveaway?
Yeah, Michelle, do a giveaway.
What are you giving
Okay.
away?
Candles.
The candles? Oh,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
jealous.
All
Which one
right.
of the
So
candles?
what's the question?
Laura, What's the question?
Oh, okay. I have a question. What does Ouija mean?
Ooh.
Mm.
If you were actually listening, you would know this one.
Yeah.
You can't Google
To my
or that's a
history
bad karma
lesson
and
tonight.
Something's gonna attach to your computer. I'm kidding.
Oh, Lord.
I'm kidding.
Here, do you need some of this?
No, I need
Okay.
some water. Is that water?
I feel like it's not.
I feel like it's tea because that's
You
all
feel
he
like it's
drinks.
tea?
Yes, it's.
That's
tea.
all I
That's
drink.
pretty
It
much.
starts with a
Getting it?
T.
Kara said French for good luck.
Okay, so I'm going to give her that, but it's actually not French. It does mean good luck, but would it be a misnomer?
Yeah.
That it's French, because it's not.
Yeah.
It was the name that the sister-in-law of the patent attorney who was one of the founders of the company, she came up with that name.
Yep. Who
when
was
she was
it?
channeling.
Did a really
Right.
good post. So it's only fitting that she wins one of the candles.
Right.
You can choose which one you want.
And these are great
Yeah.
candles.
Mm-hmm.
They are awesome. Look at Laura. She's like, yeah.
She's like, damn it,
All
why
right,
was I
so-
on the show tonight?
so we'll
I
do,
could have
um,
won.
We got 4 minutes.
We got 4 minutes to do a reading. How do you
Okay.
want? We're gonna. Does anybody have want a reading? We were gonna do pendulums, but we don't have time for that.
Okay.
I don't think. Otherwise, we'll do our pick a number, and that's the reading you get. Is there? I know there's a little
Just
delay.
yeah, a little delay.
Little delay.
Got a few people watching, so.
So the cards we're
Movies.
using, as I am using.
Oh, yeah.
Deviant Moon's Mildred Payne's Secret Pocket Oracle.
So,
Very
It's
cool.
a little bitty deck. And Laura is using,
I'm using Mildred Payne's Oracle of Black Enchantment.
these are some really dark.
Yeah.
Cards.
Since we're talking about
Another thing that you could do,
Darkness.
if you do think something has attached to something, clearly, guys know we say it all the time, is sage and clear.
sage and clear.
Yeah.
Clear
Okay,
and
go.
sage.
What are you reading with?
Sage. Sage and clear.
See, these are really cool.
Okay, so these are, what the hell are these? These are actually from Deviant Moon also. These are all three of these. We do
We got
carry
them
the
in New
Deviant
York
Moon, but we got these, these are actually 29 Disturbing Cabinet cards.
Very cool.
All right, Lexi.
Okay.
Because they're
demo.
little,
Hi, Lexi. Okay, so we're all going to pull one card. I can't pull one because these just say, like, I got to pull 3 to tell a
What
story.
the-
No, I do.
so full of it.
That's nice.
Oh, this is, okay, Lexi's asking for Marcus.
Okay, so
Sorry,
it's
my
for her, for
For
How old's
Marcus.
Marcus now? Is he like 10, 12,
No, he's not that old, is
He's
he?
not that
10,
old.
maybe?
10 maybe? Time's flying. Okay,
So this is for
Go.
Marcus?
Yeah.
So Marcus, I feel like, and he's how old?
pretty young.
He's pretty young. Marcus, I feel like you're not doing your homework before you go to bed at night. I feel like you want to get to bed, and when you get to class, you're not usually prepared. So I think that it's time for you to spend a little more focused time when you get home on your homework. That way you can enjoy the rest of your night, and you go to class prepared the next day.
And I get that Marcus is actually having those growing pains pretty badly that you get at a certain age. And he gets them at night because I don't even,
He's 8.
yeah, he's having growing pains at night. And so he's not sleeping that well, Lexi. His hands, his legs, and he actually is maybe getting some headaches too. Primarily gets them at night. So you might want to ask him about that.
So what's cool about these are actually old photos of, and this is Archibald wearing his Sunday best in 1889.
What you're reading
Very
for that?
cool.
That is cool.
Okay, so actually, if you look at it, it is he's dressed up, looks like maybe some flying demon bat, something other. But what I, kind of take of it is the fact that, with Marcus is that, kind of let yourself flow, fly, let things go. Don't get too serious about it, and really get out there and push what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Except for do your homework.
Except do your homework,
Do your
like Laura
homework.
said.
Yeah. We're going to do one more?
Monica.
All right.
Okay.
Maybe we need music, during this little time. I mean, they have it on Jeopardy. Can't we do that?
We can make that happen.
Copyrighted.
That's Jeopardy's copyrighted. We're copyrighted.
Yeah.
We've got a choir over here.
Yeah, we've got about a choir's worth of people in here tonight.
Monica, I get for you to continue to open up to the things you want to open up to spiritually, and don't feel like you have to keep burying the things and hiding the things that are important to you because of things that have gone on in your life and things that you're afraid that you may hurt a relationship or something like that. You've got to be true to yourself, and specifically with your spiritual practice.
Monica, I feel like you're in the middle of conflict right now, and there is no side to pick. There is no way to win other than just removing yourself from the conflict. I feel like you're being pushed and pulled between two different people or two different situations. Maybe it's choices, but I would step back and remove myself from it and rethink your approach and your involvement in it.
Roger.
Okay, so this one says, Violet takes dear Uncle Jack for a ride around the park. He's got his head in the wheelbarrow rolling around.
My goodness.
So, but what, the thing is, though, if you kind of look through this and think about it, is don't lose your head. You know what? Keep your head, keep cool. Don't, if you're in a kind of a tight spot, kind of getting worked up, somebody's made you upset, keep your cool. Don't lose your head. Don't get out there, cause more of an issue or blow up that issue.
Wow. Yeah. Good job. All right. Is that it? Okay. Thanks, you guys. What is this?
Oh, she wanted to tell her story.
Oh, so Lizzie. Okay.
It's fast.
Okay, come.
Come closer.
Come to the mic.
Okay, so this is Lizzie
Hi. I haven't been on
Right.
camera before.
talking about.
Okay, this is the last time I did a Ouija board. I say Ouija. Me and my friend Liam, we were, I had a play. I was a musical. I had a musical, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to your house after this. I'm gonna take a duffel bag because it's big, and I don't want my mom to see. So I hid the board in a duffel bag, which was huge. It was so huge, but I was really nervous I was gonna get in trouble. So we got to his house, and I was like, okay, so we're gonna do this Ouija board now. And it
And
did
then you
not,
made
it
out.
didn't work. No,
Okay,
no,
I'm kidding.
no.
She's my stepdaughter. She did. No.
We, nothing happened at all.
The most
so we were
thing
like,
that you took from it is that she snuck it out of the house.
yeah, no, I snuck it out of the house. But after that, we were like, well, this is lame, and nothing's happening, and whatever. So I happened to bring it was after a gore photo shoot. We did a gore photo shoot with blood and stuff and cuts. It was cool. But I had my camera, and I was like, let's make a movie. So we made one of those, you know how there's 10,000 Ouija board movies? Yeah, we made one of those, and I will never show it to anyone.
Did
It was
anything
so
happen?
funny. I think during the movie, during us filming it, because there's a green and red recording light, and I don't know why, but it kept when you watch it back, it looks weird. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing. It
And
was
now
the
you
weirdest
just
night ever.
confessed on this show to totally,
You better behave the rest
Yeah,
of the
you
week, or I'm gonna
better.
send this to your mom.
I will say that that's what happened with us, though, is that something weird. Nothing happened
Yeah.
really with the planchette, but the lights. They literally flickered and almost went out.
Flickered, yeah.
Yeah,
They did.
and then a lot of information came through, so it was cool. All right, well, thanks you guys for joining us. Thanks, Laura, for
Thanks for
stopping
having me.
by
Thank you.
and doing
Thanks
so
for
much
having
research.
me.
You can listen to SoulWhat on Spotify, the iHeart Radio app, Google Podcast, iTunes, and of course by watching live on YouTube at Michelle Soultopia, and on both of our Facebook pages at SoulWhat and Soultopia Holistic Boutique. Thank you for listening to SoulWhat, where we discuss and you decide what is important to your soul.
Thanks,
Good night.
guys.